The white dress hung in the closet like a ghost. Maya stared at it through the open door, her phone buzzing with another text she wouldn't answer. The florist wanted to know about the centerpieces. The caterer needed final numbers. Her mother had called 6 times. She grabbed her keys instead. The drive south took 3 hours. Maya kept the radio off and the windows down, letting the highway wind pull at her hair. She'd booked the cottage months ago as a surprise honeymoon destination. Now it would serve a different purpose. The rental sat 50 yards from the water, weathered shingles and blue shutters that had seen better decades. Maya dragged her single suitcase up the front steps and fumbled with the lockbox. Inside, everything smelled like salt and old wood. She dropped her bag by the door and walked straight through to the back deck. The ocean stretched endless and grey under the late afternoon sky. Waves rolled in steady sets, foam hissing across the sand. Maya kicked off her sandals and walked down to the water's edge. The first wave that touched her feet was so cold it made her gasp.
You picked a good day for it.
Maya spun around. The man stood about 20 feet away, dark hair pushed back by the wind, wearing a faded blue t-shirt and jeans rolled up at the cuffs. He held a coffee cup in one hand and a piece of driftwood in the other.
For what?
She asked.
Standing in the ocean fully clothed. Though you might want to roll up your pants, unless you're planning to swim in them.
Maya looked down. The waves had soaked her jeans to the knees. She stepped back onto dry sand.
I wasn't paying attention.
I noticed.
He took a sip of coffee.
I'm Ben. I live in the blue house.
He nodded toward a cottage similar to hers, maybe 100 yards down the beach.
Maya.
She wrung water from the hem of her jeans.
I'm renting the gray one for the week.
Good choice. Best view on this stretch.
Ben held up the driftwood.
I was looking for pieces like this. Building a coffee table.
The wood was smooth and curved, bleached white by salt and sun. Maya had never thought about furniture washing up on beaches.
Does it work? Just finding pieces that fit together?
Sometimes. Other times you have to make them fit.
Ben set his cup down in the sand and picked up another piece of driftwood.
Like this one? Wrong size, wrong shape. But if I cut it here and sand it down, it might work.
Maya watched him turn the wood in his hands, seeing something she couldn't.
I should let you get back to it,
she said.
I'm done for today. Light's getting bad anyway.
Ben picked up his coffee.
You eating dinner anywhere special?
I hadn't thought about it.
There's a place called Murphy's about 2 miles up the road. Nothing fancy, but they make a decent fish sandwich. If you're interested.
Maya hesitated. She'd come here to be alone, to figure out what came next, but the cottage felt too quiet, and she was hungry.
Okay.
I'll pick you up at 7.
I can drive myself.
Sure, meet you there.
Murphy's occupied a converted gas station with picnic tables on the side and Christmas lights strung between the posts. Maya arrived first and chose a table facing the water. Ben showed up 5 minutes later, hair still damp like he'd just showered.
You clean up nice,
she said, then immediately regretted it. Too forward for someone she'd met 2 hours ago.
Thanks. You changed clothes.
Maya looked down at her sundress.
The jeans were wet.
Right. From your impromptu wade.
The waitress came over with menus and glasses of ice water. Maya ordered the fish sandwich Ben had mentioned. He got the same, plus a beer.
So what brings you to our little stretch of nowhere?
Ben asked after the waitress left.
I needed to get away from things.
What kind of things?
Maya traced the rim of her water glass.
The kind that follow you around and won't let you breathe.
Ben nodded like he understood.
I came here for similar reasons 3 years ago. Was supposed to be temporary.
What happened?
Found out I liked it better than the life I was running from.
He took a sip of beer.
What do you do when you're not standing in cold ocean water?
I teach second grade. Or I did. I'm not sure what I'm doing now.
The fish sandwiches arrived with a basket of fries between them. Maya realized she hadn't eaten since morning, and suddenly felt ravenous.
You quit teaching?
Ben asked.
I took a leave of absence. Everything in my life was planned out, you know? Same routine, same people, same conversations. I thought I wanted that stability.
And now?
Maya bit into her sandwich. The fish was crispy, and the bun was soft, and everything tasted better than it should have.
Now I'm eating dinner with a stranger who makes furniture out of beach trash.
It's not trash if it's useful.
How do you know if it's useful before you try to make something with it?
Ben stole one of her fries.
You don't. That's the point.
They finished eating as the sun set behind them, painting the water orange and pink. Maya offered to split the check, but Ben had already paid while she was in the bathroom.
I'll get the next one,
she said.
Assuming there is a next one.
Is there?
Ben smiled.
If you want there to be.
Maya walked on the beach the next morning, collecting shells and sea glass in the pockets of her jacket. The air was crisp and clean, nothing like the city smog she was used to. She found Ben's house easily enough, the only blue cottage in sight. He was on his deck, sanding a piece of wood.
Morning,
she called up to him.
Hey, how'd you sleep?
Better than I have in weeks. What are you working on?
Table leg. Wanna see?
Maya climbed the steps to his deck. The coffee table was half assembled, 3 legs attached to a top made from a single piece of driftwood nearly 4 feet long. The wood had natural holes and grooves that Ben had left untouched.
It's beautiful,
she said.
Thanks. Found this piece last winter after a big storm. Took me 6 months to figure out what to do with it.
You waited 6 months?
Sometimes the best ideas need time.
Ben set down the sandpaper.
I was about to make coffee. You want some?
His kitchen was small and efficient, with windows facing the water. Ben ground beans by hand and used a French press. Maya sat at the counter and watched him work.
How long did you teach?
He asked.
8 years. Started right out of college.
You miss it?
I miss the kids. Not the rest of it.
Maya accepted the coffee mug he handed her.
What did you do before this?
Software development. 60-hour weeks, conference calls with Tokyo at midnight, the whole thing.
And now you make furniture.
And fix boats. And help with the lobster traps when they need extra hands. Different kind of work.
Do you make enough money?
Ben laughed.
Enough. I don't need much. The house is paid for. I grow vegetables in the summer, catch my own fish. It's not the life I planned, but it's the one I chose.
Maya sipped her coffee and looked out at the water. A fishing boat was making its way toward shore, seagulls following in its wake.
I was supposed to get married yesterday,
she said. Ben didn't react with surprise or sympathy. He just waited.
His name is David. We've been together for 3 years. Everything was planned. The church, the reception, the honeymoon. 200 guests.
What happened?
Thursday night, he came over and said he couldn't do it. Said he'd been thinking about it for months and realized he didn't want to be married. Not to me, not to anyone. He also said I didn't want to marry him either.
How do you feel about that?
Maya had expected him to say he was sorry, or that David was an idiot. or any of the things her friends had said. Instead, he'd asked the one question she'd been avoiding.
Relieved.
She said.
Which makes me think he was right.
Ben refilled her coffee cup.
So what happens now?
I don't know. I have to go back eventually. Deal with returning gifts, canceling vendors, explaining to people. But not yet.
How long are you here?
A week? Maybe longer if I can change the reservation.
I could show you around. If you want company.
Maya looked at him over her coffee cup.
I'd like that.
They spent the afternoon exploring tide pools and hidden coves Ben knew from 3 years of beach walks. He showed her how to spot sea anemones and explained the difference between periwinkles and moon snails. Maya found herself laughing at his stories about learning to lobster fish and his first disastrous attempt at clamming.
I thought you just dug randomly.
Ben said, demonstrating with his hands.
Turns out clams leave signs if you know what to look for.
What kind of signs?
Little holes in the sand. Air bubbles when the waves recede. You have to pay attention.
They walked back as the tide came in, racing the waves to stay on dry sand. Maya's shoes were full of sand, and her hair was tangled from the wind, but she felt more awake than she had in months.
Dinner tomorrow?
Ben asked when they reached her cottage.
Let me cook for you this time. Payment for the tour guide services.
You don't have to pay me.
I want to. Besides, I need to see if I remember how to cook for 2 people instead of 1.
Maya spent the next morning at the small grocery store in town, buying ingredients for pasta with clam sauce and a bottle of white wine. The store owner, a woman named Helen, insisted on giving her directions to the best place to buy fresh herbs, and warned her about the propane stove in the rental cottage.
Temperamental thing,
Helen said.
but it works if you're patient with it.
Maya was patient. She spent the afternoon chopping vegetables and preparing sauce, taking breaks to sit on the deck and watch the water. The rhythm of the waves was hypnotic. She understood why Ben had stayed. He arrived at 7 with a bottle of wine and a small piece of sea glass, pale green and perfectly smooth.
Found it this morning.
He said, pressing it into her palm.
Thought you might like it.
Maya held it up to the light.
It's perfect.
Nothing's perfect. But some things are beautiful because of their flaws.
They ate on the deck as the sun set, talking about books and travel and the differences between city and small-town life. Ben had read more than Maya expected, and he asked thoughtful questions about places she'd been. The wine made everything softer around the edges.
I keep thinking I should feel worse about the wedding.
Maya said, twirling pasta around her fork.
Why should you feel worse?
Because it's a big deal. Life-changing. I should be devastated.
Maybe you're relieved because it wasn't right.
Everyone said we were perfect together. David and I wanted the same things. House in the suburbs, 2 kids, family vacations to Disney World. Very sensible.
Sensible doesn't mean right.
Maya looked out at the water, dark now except for the white foam of breaking waves.
What if I don't want those things? What if I never wanted them and just thought I was supposed to?
Then you're lucky you found out before you got married.
David knew. He said I'd been going through the motions for months. He was right.
Ben reached across the table and touched her hand.
So what do you want?
Maya turned her hand palm up and laced their fingers together.
I'm starting to figure that out.
They cleaned up the dishes together, working around each other in the small kitchen. Maya was hyper-aware of every accidental brush of arms, every moment when Ben reached around her for something. When the last plate was dried and put away, he turned to face her.
I should go,
he said.
Should you?
It's been a long day. And you've had a big week.
Maya stepped closer.
What if I don't want you to go?
Ben cupped her face in his hands.
Are you sure?
Instead of answering, she kissed him. He tasted like wine and salt air. His hands tangled in her hair, and she pressed closer, surprised by how right it felt to be touching someone new. They moved to the couch, then to the bedroom, learning each other slowly. Ben's hands were calloused from working with wood, but gentle on her skin. Maya traced the scar on his shoulder and the freckles across his back. Everything was different from what she was used to, and that difference felt like freedom. Afterward, they lay listening to the waves through the open window.
I leave Sunday.
Maya said.
I know.
This is crazy. I just met you.
Maybe that's why it works.
Maya turned to face him in the dark.
What if I stayed longer?
What if you did?
I mean really stayed. Not just another week.
Ben was quiet for a long moment.
What about your job? Your life back home?
I took a leave of absence. I could extend it.
And then what?
I don't know. Figure it out as I go.
Ben pulled her closer.
That's not very sensible.
I'm starting to think sensible is overrated.
Maya extended her stay for another week. Then another. She called the school and arranged to finish the semester remotely, grading papers and planning lessons from the cottage deck. Her mother stopped calling after Maya explained, over and over, that she was fine and just needed time. Ben taught her to identify different types of seaweed and showed her how to use a handsaw. Maya helped him finish the coffee table and started a small herb garden behind the cottage. They fell into an easy routine. Morning walks, afternoons working on separate projects, evenings cooking together and talking until late.
I called the landlord about extending the lease again.
Maya said one evening as they cleaned up after dinner.
And?
He said I could rent month to month if I want. Or there's a place for sale down the road. Nothing fancy, but it has good bones.
Ben dried his hands on a dish towel and leaned against the counter.
Are you thinking about buying it?
Maybe. I'd need to find work, figure out finances. But maybe.
What would you do for work?
The elementary school in town needs a substitute teacher for the rest of the year. Their second-grade teacher is on maternity leave. It's not much, but it's something.
Ben nodded slowly.
And after that?
I don't know. Tutor kids in the summer. Maybe start a small business. I've always wanted to try making pottery.
Pottery?
I took a class in college. Loved it, but never had time to pursue it seriously. There's a studio in town that offers workshops.
Ben crossed the room and pulled her into his arms.
You're really thinking about staying?
I'm really thinking about staying.
What about David? The life you left behind?
I talked to David last week. He's dating someone new already. Says he's happy for me.
Maya laughed.
It's weird how little that bothers me.
And your friends? Family?
My friends think I've lost my mind. My mother is convinced I'm having a breakdown. But my sister says I sound happier than I have in years.
Ben kissed her forehead.
How do you feel about it?
Terrified. And excited. And more sure than I've ever been about anything.
2 months later, Maya signed the papers on the cottage down the road. It was smaller than her apartment back home, with a kitchen that needed updating and a bathroom with vintage fixtures. But it had a view of the water and a workshop space where she could set up a pottery wheel. Ben helped her move in, along with half the neighborhood. The lobsterman brought beer, and the woman who ran the local bookstore brought homemade cookies. Maya had never lived in a place where people just showed up to help.
So this is really happening.
Ben said that evening as they sat on Maya's new deck, watching the sunset.
This is really happening.
Any regrets?
Maya looked at the cottage, with its boxes of dishes and books waiting to be unpacked, then at Ben, sunburned and smiling beside her.
None.
She said.
Even about the pottery wheel? Because I should probably warn you, I have no artistic ability whatsoever.
I'll teach you. Everyone can learn to make something beautiful if they're patient enough.
Ben took her hand and squeezed it.
I'm learning that.
As the sun disappeared into the water, Maya thought about the white dress still hanging in her closet back home, and the life she'd almost chosen. She'd have to go back eventually, to pack up her apartment and tie up loose ends. But for the first time in years, she wasn't planning beyond the next day, the next week, the next season. The waves rolled in steady sets, foam hissing across the sand. Maya kicked off her sandals and walked down to the water's edge, not caring when the first wave soaked her feet. This time, she was paying attention,